Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Peter coming at you through the tubes of the internet. Today, taking a look at the latest release from Daze, an album called Show Me the Blueprints. I'm excited to discuss and glad you could join.
Oh my darling dopamine is the reward outweigh the risk. I'm on the fence.
Fast facts.
Show Me the Blueprints, released May 1st, 2020 via Fat Records, is the 8th studio LP from Houston, Texas-based folk punk act Daze. The group currently consists of 4 members. Dual vocalists Jesse Sendejas and Whitney Flynn handle guitar and trumpet respectively, and they're joined by Jeff Bell on washtub bass and Megan Michelle on the washboard.
Backstory.
Daze spent the first half-decade of their career outputting a torrent of lo-fi DIY tunes. Utilizing improvised instruments and a crust aesthetic, the band evolved into a nationally touring act and released their breakout record Rogue Taxidermy in the span of 5 years. Since then, D&D's output has slowed a bit, and an increased emphasis has been put on production quality. Their current release, Show Me the Blueprints, marks the band's Fat Records debut and sees the group at their most polished to date instrumentally. Sendejas and Flynn recount struggles with addiction and depression and use those topics as jumping off points to discuss broader societal issues. The album offers compelling takes to ponder heavy topics, and the band are able to stay true to their grimy roots while making a huge jump in quality.
Track by track analysis.
This release has 11 official tracks and clocks in at 37 minutes. Daze pack plenty of unique lyrics into the record, so even though there's a bit of a lull at the halfway point, the album's bookended by super strong tracks, and its dips into Celtic ska and even sea shanty type arrangements keep the music fresh throughout. The runtime's padded out by a bonus track and a minute wait for that to start, so overall I think the pacing is right on.
Track 1, Flurry Rush.
This opener lives up to its name. It's overflowing with thoughts presented as a stream of consciousness barrage, and the huge volume of ideas also come from opposite extremes. Hopeful thoughts on interconnectedness flip a switch straight into bleak commentary on worthlessness, and this scatterbrained back and forth defines the track. The backing instrumentals match this intensity perfectly via the band going full blast along with the vocals and a stair-stepping trumpet line that mirrors the rise and fall of emotions in the lyrics. Endearing production qualities like a sampled dog yip and a left-in mistake to start the tune show right off the bat that the band aren't taking themselves too seriously despite the newfound commitment to hi-fi recording. This tune's a ton of fun while still weighing in on lots of heavy topics. It lays down a solid base for the album to come, and it's an excellent opener.
Track 2, Ditches.
Get some nuts to catch a time.
The second cut takes a much more chill approach, as lead vocal duties are handed off to Whitney Flynn, who sings about themes of finding self-worth and leaning on loved ones during tough times. For an album so hinged on following along to the story and the lyrics, that gets difficult at several points here. Words are slurred and blurred together, especially on the moan-along chorus lines, and there's just a general murkiness to the lyrical delivery that I find off-putting. The song has a bit of a Celtic feel in the instrumentals, and it works well with the nomadic wanderer themes, but I think this musical style is better executed later on the release. And the carry me home sentiment seems a touch cliche. This one just doesn't really do it for me overall.
Track 3, Libriyum.
Loaded to the brim with Libriyum, hallucinating in some retro telenovela.
On the album's second single, Daze used their dual vocalist set up to the fullest, with intricate interplay between Flynn and Sendejas juggling back and forth from line to line. The cut recounts the highs and lows of kick and drug addiction and uses wild intensity changes in the lyrical delivery to do so.
Boring normalcy, why did I even quit? Oh yeah, that's right. I almost died, so I suppose I'll get the sober train to ride.
Guttural post-hardcore screams butt up against smooth, cutesy crooning to perfectly communicate the emotional swings of this detox process. Musically, I can't hear this chorus fire up without thinking of Bomb the music industry's Happy Antirabe Day. But that's no knock on the tune, and if you're gonna crib a melody, it might as well be one as great as this. Overall, I like the way this track conveys being left alone with deep thoughts rushing through your head during recovery, and I think it's a really strong cut.
I'm so afraid of all while trying to ignore these racing thoughts of never-ending nagging me to figure out the point.
Track 4, Saboteurs.
One year we flew up to Alaska, all the scenery was gorgeous and the people all so pleasant, what a place.
This track uses resonant harmonica sounds and plucky banjo notes to create a serene quality for the backing instrumental. The chill vibe matches the scenic locations Jesse describes in the lyrics, but the stories he tells here also present a darker, self-defeating streak he's struggling with. Family trips and band touring take him to beautiful remote locales, but he's unable to be present and enjoy his surroundings, instead retreating into isolation and falling into familiar habits. His family and friends go out of their way to coordinate fun getaways and activities, but he can't get out of his own head long enough to enjoy any of it. He's addicted to having problems even when everything's going right. It's a simplistic tune, but I love the peaceful vibe, and Zendaya just does such a great job of conveying the personal hell he's trapped in that it's one of my favorite cuts on the album.
Track 5, My Darling Dopamine.
When everything seems all sped up and you can't clear your mind.
On the album's first single, Daze and Daze point blank asks the eternal question of drug use,
Does the reward outweigh the risk?
stating that sometimes life's too much to handle without a substance to help you get by, but also wondering if the recovery time, both mental and physical, cancels out that momentary fix. The trumpet here grabs its melody from Run Around Sue to give a doo-woppy sound to the lead, and the upbeat instrumental paired with the life and death subject matter makes for an interesting contrast. Between the sweaty palms, racing heartbeat, and shortness of breath, D&D viscerally describe the bodily torments drug use is having on him. And by the end of the tune, the decision's clear that this cycle needs to be broken. A half-time run through the chorus to close the track does a great job of conveying what a slug these habits have become, and the choice to get out of this rut seems well earned. Great track.
Oh my darling dopamine, is the reward outweigh the rest? I'm on the fence.
Track 6, Rewind.
Well, am I insane? Well, I really must be.
Crossing the record's halfway point, Flynn sings about a bygone era of hopes and dreams that didn't survive to the present day. I like the jangly string sounds here, but there isn't much else that catches my ear. The past, present, and future layers mentioned aren't developed much, with this being the shortest and thinnest track lyrically. I do like the production for the bridge, where warm reel-to-reel tape pops and hisses are used for a nostalgic feel. It gives the impression that you're listening to a track that could be rewound, but it's not enough to save a slightly boring tune with a theme that's played out better elsewhere on the release.
And sometimes you gotta find a little rewinding.
Track 7, Addvice.
Trying to be an optimist, but my glass is always bone dry, so I gotta fill it up or get high to give high to just.
Hear the band recount difficulties with kick and addiction, because their default coping mechanism for any problem is always a vice. They're finding it hard to get by,
Without a six-pack, a bag of weed, or a bumper coat.
but also realizing these temporary fixes are just band-aids on bullet wounds that do more to poison themselves in the short term than actually remedying the underlying issues. The goofy puns throughout this tune, subtracting good advice, etc., give a whimsical feel, and the more cheery sound musically complements the idea of trying to be an optimist. It keeps things light even when the subject matter gets dark. The track closes with both vocalists in a round, layering lines about feeling better tomorrow on top of lines about not making it to tomorrow. D&D are able to keep the deeper commentary while doing a merrier tune here, and I think it works really well.
Track 8, Non-Exempt.
Where do we draw the line? Hasn't this gone far enough?
Daze and Daze bring a piratey tavern aesthetic to a grimy tune about holding the rich accountable for their crimes. Raspy vocals and building intensity accompany the band in wondering why we let scumbags rule over us when they so obviously lie, cheat, and steal to achieve power. I love how the track calls out abusers in lots of relevant categories: killer cops, rapists, fail sons, and pedophile billionaires. Their direct and incisive approach here rules and gets at the raw quality of the album. The sentiment is perfect, but I can't help getting hung up on the authoritarian vibe of the cage wording choice throughout. Like, if people are able to terrorize others because they have money, then take their money. Torturing their physical body seems beside the point. Leaving the rich the means to exploit again once they get out of the cage guarantees they will do so, unless their family and friends continue the same abuses in their absence. That minor gripe keeps me from completely loving the tune, but otherwise definitely a favorite.
No longer should dollar nor title make it exempt from the cage.
Track 9, Fast Track.
Let's fast track through the romance.
This is another track that finds Flynn wanting to rewind back to a more peaceful and idyllic time, moving through the early phases of infatuation with the partner to the point that their initial spark dulls and fades away. The breezy pace here works well with the lighter, bluegrassy instrumentation to give the vibe a simpler times, and vocals are delivered without any of the previous track's raspy harshness. Despite the drop in intensity, Whitney's vocals retain their sincere quality, and the cruelty of life driving these friends apart comes through strongly as the track progresses. A really well executed song with a chiller approach than most.
So I go back to that place where I memorized each line on your face.
Track 10, Show Me the Blueprints.
Summers are evil, a slave to absurd and routine.
In stark contrast to the last tune, this cuts vocal blasts the doors off right from the first notes, with a gravelly scream from Zendejas. Paired with a frantic horror quality to the instrumentals, it makes this tune's first verse the most intense on the record. That same dark, menacing presence extends to the lyrical themes too, where the band detail the mental torments of addiction and being a slave to the routine it traps them in. The in-your-face quality of the track's intro and outro does relent for a more laid-back middle section that even moves into a skanky ska groove on the song's bridge. These musical elements keep things interesting for the 3-minute runtime, and it's a solid penultimate cut.
Track 11, Goodbye Lulu Part 2.
Well, it's been fun for a spell, and I wish y'all will.
To close out the record, D&D follow up on a tune from their fan-favorite 2013 release, Rogue Taxidermy, taking the instrumental from the original Goodbye Lulu and switching the perspective of the narrator. Where the original track was about a dying friend, this one's from the point of view of the person actually doing the dying. But rather than being a gloomy dirge, the tone here is celebratory, with death only a temporary setback before the crew can pick the party right back up in hell. Upon arriving, they'll be drinking with friends and bootlicking the new boss. Upon arriving, they'll be drinking with friends and reveling in nostalgic tunes. I love the dive bar karaoke sound that rounds out the cut here, and it shows that even though D&D are blowing up a bit and cleaning up their sound, they still completely retain that rowdy, house show sing-along vibe that the band was built on. Great finale.
We'll get hammered to the gimme Salt Lake sign.
Bonus track.
A A short bonus track closes out the album, and I think it was a good choice to have this be an unofficial secret cut. The synth-based instrumental here deviates the furthest from the band's usual MO, and the brash "go fuck yourself" refrain is an unequivocal middle finger to all the haters. Nothing too special, but a cool little Easter egg for the last couple minutes.
Verdict.
Overall, I like this album a lot. The band recount the drug addiction recovery process from a ton of different angles and land deep, moving tracks consistently without sacrificing enjoyability. Daze and Daze ponder existential concepts of life's purpose and do so with an underlying sincerity that keeps those topics from ever coming across as corny. The vocals here might not be for everyone, but I think you'd be missing out if you let that keep you from enjoying the album. It's heady, but a lot of fun too. And for that reason, I'm going to give this release a score of 8.5 out of 10.
Farewell to everyone, everything. Thanks for the memories. I'll catch you down the line when we regroup. In hell, the first round's on me. We'll get hammered to the gimmies all day.
So that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the record. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the release, my critique, or the review format in general. Making this is a lot of work, but also fun, and definitely worth it if it helps some people wrap their head around the record. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.
It's a series of tubes.